So, the greatest comeback in sports, huh? Well, let's do something different. What about instead of looking at the greatest comeback of a single athlete or team, we look at the greatest comeback of a sport in general. Enter Formula 1, the pinnacle of motorsports which spans to almost every corner of the globe. Hundreds of millions of fans and whole nations come together to support just a single team. The 2021 championship deciding race in Abu Dhabi, which was the final race of the season, had a record-shattering 109 million viewers for just that race alone. To put this into context, the 2016 NBA Finals between LeBron James and Stephen Curry, regarded to be one of the greatest finals ever in NBA history, only turned up a little under 33 million viewers. That's insane. But how did it come to this? For a brief period in time, F1 was boring.
So what's this season got in store for us?
We couldn't expect to see cars going round and around the track, to be quite honest with you.
Anything unexpected that could happen? No. Thanks, Mark. Well, I'm certainly not looking forward to it.
The views were low and people were genuinely just losing interest. The leadership and management was falling apart and they virtually had no interest in trying to market towards a younger audience. Bernie Ecclestone, the former CEO of F1, famously once said, "I'd rather get the 70-year-old who's got plenty of cash." F1 was looking as if it was gonna go out, but in 2016 a company called Liberty Media bought the rights to F1, and from then on there, F1 only blew up in popularity. They introduced many new things to the sport and quickly turned F1 into the fastest growing sport in the world. So strap in as we race through how Formula 1 made the most epic comeback in all of sports and what it means for the future of sports. Our story begins in the 1950s with the birth of Formula 1. In its early years, it was absolutely wild. It wasn't just racing, it was a revolution. Legends like Juan Manuel Fangio and Alberto Ascari tore up the tracks, leaving a new type of racing to be born. During these early years, F1 was rapidly gaining popularity and was expanding its race calendar, visiting more and more countries across the globe. During the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the cars were literal rocket ships on wheels, 1,000 plus brake horsepower monsters that could make you go deaf if you're not expecting the sound from the sheer monstrosity of an engine that these cars have. Motorsport safety was still not a top concern, and so people were crashing and getting severely injured at almost every race or multiple races throughout the season. People all around the world started to tune in to watch F1, and soon F1 became a household name. It was also around this time that Bernie Ecclestone, the former team owner of the Brabham F1 team, sold his team and moved into an administrative role in the Formula 1 organization. He basically united all of the teams against one of the governing bodies at the time, the CSI, now known as FISA, in order to get a bigger cut of the TV revenue that F1 was raking in so that the teams could invest it in R&D. Now this allowed Bernie to quickly climb up the F1 ladder as he had almost every team on board. And soon enough, by the mid-1990s, Ecclestone was at the helm of F1, taking over ownership. He made moves that seemed great at the time and would help F1 out a lot, but it would also be the reason why F1 would start to decline and he had to sell. He was fully about business. He took F1 from being a sport to a recognizable brand. He negotiated TV rights, race venues, and sponsorships like he was him, bringing in the big bills for the teams and himself at the time. It's safe to say that F1 wouldn't be where it is today without him. He quite literally turned the shit show that F1 was into a multi-billion-dollar organized industry. However, Ecclestone also made some decisions that would also see the downfall of F1, and during this time, F1 lost countless viewers because the fans were getting fed up with Bernie. A majority of F1 fans aren't the ultra-rich business magnates that you would think they are. No, they're regular people just like me and you. Bernie made it clear that he wanted to make F1 an exclusive club. To quote his own words, "I'd rather get the 70-year-old guy who's got plenty of cash." Now in a sport like F1, you can see why he would decide that. It's not like your regular sport where the costs are just team salaries and venue prices. No, at that time you needed hundreds of millions of dollars so that teams could develop faster race cars each year, and you still do. In Ecclestone's mind, your average 12-year-old LeBron James fanboy wouldn't provide any value to F1, so he didn't think it was important to market towards this new younger generation of audiences. Now people blame this on the downfall of F1 because Bernie was too stuck on TV deals, which by the way was also making him lose viewers because people simply didn't have access to expensive cable channels that these races were running on, so they started watching whatever else was available for free including sites like YouTube which were exploding, and Bernie failed to keep up. In an era where almost every business, including sports leagues, were using social media and other video sharing sites to boost their overall audience and exposure, F1 was lacking. And this was all because of Bernie's exclusivity mentality. And during the same time period, many fans felt that F1 had become boring and predictable. Regulations always seemed to favor big teams, making the competition seem lopsided, and people were missing the thrill and unpredictability that made racing exciting. The times were changing and Ecclestone wasn't really keeping up. Young folks weren't feeling connected to F1 and there wasn't being much done to change that. When you're not connected to the next generation of fans, that's a major red flag. Enter Liberty Media. These guys entered the scene in 2016 when they paid a massive $8 billion for the rights to F1. Now these guys weren't just throwing money around, they had a vision and they highlighted the huge flaws and red flags in F1 that was stopping it from being able to compete with other top sports around the world. These guys knew how to turn it around and they quickly got to work. The first thing they did was embrace the digital age. They started promoting F1 throughout channels like Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, which instantly started connecting them with younger fans. They scrapped Barney's exclusivity and catered towards the rich mindset and started being more inclusive, opening F1's doors to everyone. They hosted events like F1 Fan Festival, which allowed people to feel more connected to the sport, just like how a regular sports team would be out in their community so that their fans feel more connected to them. Their viral Netflix series Drive to Survive was a game changer. It offered a behind-the-scenes look at the teams and drivers, which was revolutionary in a sport where teams wanted to keep their drama and whatever else not shown to the public a secret.
Wait a second, I'm talking.
Hang on, are we playing to the cameras here? Or I think this is probably better off camera than...
No, I don't care.
Drive to Survive brought many new fans to the sport, some of who weren't even there for the racing, rather the drama that comes with managing hundreds of millions of dollars and competing at the pinnacle of motorsports, where losing isn't an option and where if you're not first, no one's gonna remember you.
Congratulations.
Well, change your car. You've got a problem, change your fucking car.
Then you change your car because Checo has been saying the car is fucked and your driver has been going out.
Speak to my drivers.
The stress teams hide behind the scenes is truly entertaining to watch. Sometimes you feel bad for them and other times you feel the joy that a team feels when they have good news. They opened up communications between the team and driver during the race to the fans, which led to better decision making and more understanding between all parties involved. Teams couldn't give drivers outrageous demands such as letting your teammate pass so that they could win, so that they could secure more points for the best interest of the championship.
Through. He's not going to let Michael through, is he? No, they're going to... Yes, he is! No! I do not believe it! I do not, Adam and Eve, what is going on? Michael Schumacher wins the Austrian Grand Prix. He doesn't deserve to win it. That is outrageous.
Because now the whole world is listening, and telling a driver who rightfully deserves something to move over so his teammate can get it brings in a lot of heat and negative attention. Liberty Media managed to grow all of F1 social media pages to over double, some even triple its original size when they took over. They're investing heavily in the future, adding many new races to the calendar that F1's never visited before in order to increase its audience. The United States is a huge market for F1 with a lot of untapped potential. You can see the huge investments they made by introducing a Miami Grand Prix and now adding a Las Vegas Grand Prix to next year's calendar. Arguably the best thing they did, however, was making the racing more competitive and thrilling. The 2022 regulations completely changed the way F1 cars race. Before, keeping up with another car close behind was often hard because of the aerodynamic backwash that would come off of the car in front, hindering the aero capabilities of the car to keep up. These new cars make following much easier, giving us more exciting racing in 1 year than almost a whole decade. Yes, Red Bull's currently winning everything, but the races themselves are much more entertaining because the gaps between the cars have been minimized by a lot. And at the end of the day, F1 is about racing, and producing better racing was the main goal of Liberty Media. The lack of social media and marketing presence was only a perk to help Liberty Media catapult F1 into one of the most known sports in the world. And that brings us to today. F1's growing like never before, with more and more people engaging with the sport each and every year. F1's global appeal, fan-centric approach, accessibility, and digital engagement all help. The future looks promising, and under the care of Liberty Media, I believe F1 is gonna grow into a spectacle that we can't even imagine. I love F1 with all my heart, and I'm truly excited to see what Liberty Media has in stock for us fans for the future. I look forward to the closer racing and unpredictable race outcomes that lie ahead. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to like and subscribe so you can help me grow this channel into something wonderful. And until next time, peace.